Welcome to the SoapBox podcast, where we will focus on putting what you do and how you do it front and center. We'll be spotlighting entrepreneurs, artists, nonprofits, and more. So sit back, get comfortable, and hear all about it.
Good evening, and welcome to the SoapBox podcast. This evening, we'll be talking about the silent killer, workplace bullying. Workplace bullying is typically not like your schoolyard bullying. It's a persistent pattern of mistreatment from others in the workplace. It causes physical or emotional harm, including verbal, nonverbal, psychological, physical abuse, as well as humiliation. Workplace bullying is something that's very common but not spoken about a lot. It's something that is very persistent but is not often dealt with effectively. Workplace bullying typically happens with upper management for people that they feel threatened by, whether it's their status as far as their education, personality, or anything that they feel that they're threatened by. Today, we will be talking to Ms. Janet J. Barnes. Ms. Janet J. Barnes is a mother, a grandmother, a great-grandmother, which I think is, as she says, one of her greatest achievements. She holds a master's, bachelor's, and associate's degree in health administration. She also is in the process of completing her dissertation for a doctor of health and administration. She has been a certified medical records coder since 2006 and a tech medical coding and billing at a community college in the Richmond, Virginia area. She is currently employed by the U.S. Army as a medical coding supervisor at Kenya Health Clinic in Fort Lee, Virginia. Welcome to the SoapBox podcast, Ms. Barnes. How are you doing today?
I am fine, and thank you so much for having me. This is a good opportunity to get the word out about this subject.
Absolutely. One of the things that Ms. Barnes and I connected with is this very topic. We both have been through it, and it's something that people often say, wow, what do you mean you were bullied at work? Or what do you mean that you didn't fight back, or I would have cussed them out. I would have did this and I would have done that. And it's not that easy, and it's not that type of bullying. It's more of a persistent mental anguish that upper management holds over your head.
Exactly. Definitely 100%. Even when you're going through it and other people experience it, or other people experience you experiencing it, it's still very difficult to prove. So I think that's why it persists. And then people will stand back and they'll know that it's not right, but for fear of, losing their own job or bringing the wrath down on their heads, they will not say anything about it.
Absolutely. I experienced the exact same thing. It's kind of like I'll turn my head, like I know something's not right, and I know she's not being treated fair, but I want to keep my job and my livelihood, so I'm not going to say anything.
Right, and you don't want that wrath to be turned on you, you know, because you have spoken up and tried to defend this person who, is obviously being treated very unfairly.
Correct. So do you think because you are a high achiever, that made you a target for bullying and harassment?
When I was thinking about, what kind of questions and why I thought, certain things happened, that seemed to come up in my mind, and it stayed. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that if you're a high achiever, a person who is capable of doing critical thinking and, making things happen when, they shouldn't have, especially when you're given impossible tasks, the bigger the threat that you become, especially when the people who are supervising you or managing you may be at a place where they're concerned about, retaining their own job. So it's almost like, okay, we're going to eliminate the competition. Right. So definitely the more educated you are, the more of a go-getter you are, or, if they give you an impossible task and you come back and you've done it, instead of good job, proud of you, glad you, it's almost like they sit back and say, this one might be a problem. So I definitely feel like as African-American females, it shouldn't be a hindrance for us in corporate America, but it is. It is.
It is.
Yeah, especially if your immediate supervisors may not have as much education or experience as you have. And also if you have a good rapport with maybe the people that work for you or with you, and then you're able to, like, get these people together and get stuff done, that's another problem for people if they're insecure about their own position.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So at any time did you ask yourself, because I know when I was going through it, I actually asked God, like, why me? Did you ever ask yourself, like, why is this happening to me?
Probably, if not on a daily basis, on an hourly basis. And I did too. I was like, okay, Lord, what am I doing wrong? You know, what do I need to do differently? Please help me. Show me what it is I should do so that I can get this pressure off my back.
Mm-hmm.
You definitely internalize it to where, okay, there's got to be something I can do differently or better or not do or do that's going to change these circumstances, and that's just not true. It's not true because what you're experiencing from these managers doesn't really have anything to do with how well you do your job, what kind of person you are. It is the fact that they, for whatever reason, have decided to target you as, you know, this is going to be the focus of whatever's going on with them. Rather, it's that they have been told we have to decrease the staff. Or maybe somebody has said, well, I don't like the way Janet has done certain things, and I just think we ought to figure out a way to get rid of her. Or I don't like the fact that she's able to rally her team together and do everything that we've asked them to do. But when you're going through it, you don't see that it's the person who's bullying you or targeting you. You just kind of think, what is it I'm doing wrong? And I did. I asked God a lot of times, Lord, what am I doing? Can you help me?
That's the thing. It's just the psychological pressure. And so you can't necessarily, while you're going through it, you can't think out the box because you're going through such a traumatic experience at the time. So your focus is, I have to get this task done. I have to get this task done. Because I'm trying to put a period at the end of, like, this it's like workplace battering, like domestic battering in the workplace.
Battering, yes. And just like, you know, any other battering, whether it's domestic or not, it's not you. It's the person that's doing it. But like you said, when you're in the midst of it, you can't see anything except yourself. And what can I do to fix this? And, you know, sometimes there's not anything that we can do to fix it. Sometimes that's the way things have to play out, and we have to go through it and get to a point where, like I did, where I said, okay, enough. I can't do this anymore. When I had my first panic attack in the grocery store on a Sunday because I was just thinking about having to go to work Monday, that's when I realized I can't do this anymore. I cannot. I just could not. For my own sanity and mental health and physical health and emotional health, I knew I had to make a change.
Right.
Yeah.
And so how did you survive the attack? Like, so what changes did you have to make?
Well, you know, of course, they gave me this laundry list of stuff I needed to do so that I could come up to, this unachievable standard that they had set down for me. So, you know, one of the things is I am not the best person when it comes down to Excel, and I'll be the first person to tell anybody that. So they suggested, okay, you take some classes in Excel. But, you know, the first thing I asked was, well, do the organization have any? Well, we don't think so. So I go out on the internet, I find some classes, I pay for them out my pocket. there were other things that, came up. And I found what I was doing was I was spending a lot of time that was basically off the clock because it was weekends and nights and that kind of thing, trying to get the things done that I had been told I needed to do. And one of them was just this ridiculous spreadsheet that had a lot of manual data entry. I was told I had to have it done by 11 o'clock. Normally my day started at 7. There were days when I got up at 5:30, 6 o'clock to start working on this spreadsheet to try to have it done by 11 o'clock. Because if it wasn't done by 11, then, of course, I got beat over the head. Even though there were, many other duties that I had, in terms of managing my team to do first thing in the morning, and I just think, even saying, okay, you have to have this done by 11 o'clock, that was even part of the bullying because it put a ridiculous time frame on getting this done. And then, I'm thinking this spreadsheet is so, it's so important, has to be done. And right before I left, I took off from work a couple of days to have some work done at my house. And I said, so do you need me to do this, in the morning or in the evening or something just to make sure it gets done? And I was told, no, it don't need to be done. But it was so vitally important that I had to have it done by 11 o'clock every day. But the 2 days I was off, nobody did it. So that told me right there, it was one of the that was just for me. Used. Yes, yes, it was just one of the mechanisms.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate part because, like you said, it's like these ridiculous tasks, very strenuous time frames. I know for me, it was multiple time frames, multiple different tasks. On top of tasks that I was already assigned to do.
Right.
And every time I finished them, it still was just like, oh, we need one more thing.
Right.
And like you, I end up having a panic attack, and I just went to my doctor, and I said, I can't go back. I just cannot go back. I mean, it's hard to, like we said, it's hard to prove workplace bullying because it's almost like what she said, he said.
Right.
And then when you try to confront, you don't even know who to confront. Human resources doesn't help. I had a union. They didn't help. They kept making me the problem, like I was doing these things. And I'm just like, I've always come to work. I've always done my job. I've always done excellent in anything that I've done. And so then you become, again, silent.
Yeah, you eventually you don't know what to do. In my case, I actually went to HR because there was one morning we had our huddle meeting because my team was completely remote, and this particular manager, dragged me over the carpet in this meeting in front of my entire team and an outside contract coding manager. And so, to me, not only was that disrespectful to the team, but it definitely undermined my authority with the team. I went to HR, and I explained to them what happened. I told them the people, who were on this Zoom meeting that could back up what I was saying. And as far as I know, they never talked to anybody that was in the meeting. They went to this manager. She agreed that, she had done this. And what I was told was, we hope it gets better. So I have to tell you, I was flabbergasted. I was like, yeah, okay. She admitted to what I said she did. You never talked to anybody on the team. So it was almost like you said, it came down to he said, she said. Even though there were, probably 12, 15 witnesses to what she did. And what they told me was, we hope it gets better.
Right. That's what makes you become silent. And then it just like literally silently kills you because most people don't either believe you or understand what you're going through. And then it's like, who do you talk to? Like, who can I go to and, express what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
For me, I did try. I went to my chief. I went to upper management. I did all of the necessary steps I thought, was going to be beneficial, but that just turned out not to be in my favor.
Yeah.
So it's just like, again, it's a silent killer.
You're right, because there were times when I would be so sick it was all I could do to sit at the computer during the day. And it was because of the stress and the pressure. I got to the point that I honestly thought I had Alzheimer's because I couldn't remember things. I was making mistakes. And, of course, when that starts to happen, then this person who's bullying you, they make a really big deal out of whatever mistakes you made. Sometimes I would post an email and it would come back looking like my English teacher had went through it with a red pencil. That kind of, to me, ridiculousness.
Right.
So you're right. It is a silent killer because I believe if you don't do something to mitigate that stress, it will probably cause you to have a stroke or heart attack or something. Because the body is not designed to live under a constant stressful situation.
Right. Every day was something totally different. Every day it was a different focus, and every day was a different demeanor. And
and in my case, I was working from home, and I'd come and sit in my office, and I'd think, oh, my God, what am I going to have to put up with today?
That was my every Sunday night.
What craziness is she going to come up with this week? The way I got through it was it did push me closer and further into my faith because I think I had stepped away from, maybe doing devotionals and praying. And so it did definitely renew my relationship with God. So I think that was how I got through it.
Okay. That would be accurate for me as well, like my relationship and understanding life better. It was just like reformed in that time frame. Things I used to take as super serious, it was just like, that's not even serious anymore. Like I went through a war.
And you're right. You look at things from a different perspective. You realize what they say, don't sweat the small stuff, and then you realize it's all small stuff.
It's all small, especially dealing with that type of psychological abuse.
Yes. But I was thinking about it, too, on my way home from work today, and I think sometimes as Christians, we look at the situations we're in, and the first thing we think, oh, this must be the enemy. He's trying to take my good job away from me. But what I have learned through this situation and even other situations I have been through in my life is that that's not always the case. Sometimes God makes you real uncomfortable where you are because he wants you to make a move.
Absolutely.
And, so in my case, making a move for me was probably the most difficult thing I've ever done. I have never left a job when I didn't have another job to go to. When I changed jobs, I usually would work one job up until Friday, and Monday I start the new job. When I left on February 22nd, I did not have another job. I did have some money that was squirreled away, so I said, Lord, I looked at what I had, and I said, okay, I can make it for about 6 to 8 months. I have to go. So when I left, I didn't have any place else to go. And sometimes that's the hardest thing in the world to do. It's only one income come in my house. So if the income don't come in my house, we're going to be out at the curb. So you know what I'm saying? So that was definitely, I guess, what the old folks used to call a leap of faith.
Like he had to get our attention some way. Unfortunately, it was a very harsh lesson, but it was also a very teachable lesson. And so for me, I know a lot of people come to me and say, oh, my gosh, how did you survive that? Like, they, once I tell the story, or they ask me different things, so what's going on now? And I'm just like, God got it. That's all I can say. Like, I can't go back through and say, she said this and they did that, and I looked at them and they looked at me, and I just can't. God took it. He got it. I'm moving forward. Yes. Because it was my time to build my relationship back stronger with him.
Exactly. And in my case, I had not taken a full vacation since, I think it was January 2020. And I was supposed to be off 8 days. That was when we went to New York when my great-grandson was born. And out of those 8 days, I still ended up working a couple of days because there was stuff going on that the same manager that turned on me could not handle. So I had to spend time that day taking care of those things. So I was actually out of work for 2 months, and I know that God was telling me, okay, you need to rest. And that's basically what I did. I got up when I felt like it. I ate when I felt like it. I watched television. I took naps during the day. And, I got some work done in my yard. I got some work done on my house. And, he was telling me, okay, for these 2 months, I'm going to take care of you, and you're going to be okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think the lesson is even extended, because out of that, he's like, okay, so now moving forward, just trust me. Just have faith. Trust me. Relax. Don't raise your blood pressure. Don't do anything. I got it. Like, you don't have it. I got it. And that was one of the hardest things. I mean, even though I was, like, in church as a, growing up, I didn't understand the magnitude of how God worked, because the Bible was preached, but not, like, literally, like, how it wasn't lived in your life.
It wasn't lived.
Right.
And we have to realize that the Bible is actually a living organism.
Right.
And you're right. People will say things, but it's still hard to, walk away from your job and say, okay, now I got bills to pay. How am I going to do this? And you're right. And what he's saying is, just trust me, I got this.
Right.
Yeah. Still not the easiest thing in the world to do. And I think, with the exception of, walking away from my job and not having another one, God, every time I would think about this woman, of course, all kinds of negative feelings would come up. I couldn't even think about her without, calling her some nasty name. And eventually God said, I need you to stop. I need you to stop doing that, and I need you to pray for her. And I was like, really?
Right.
Really? But that, biblically, that's what we're supposed to do. God tells us, you pray for the people that, that do you wrong and take advantage of you. And that's hard to do, too, when, you're thinking, why do I need to pray for this person? This person, turned my life upside down. But, that's God's way of showing you, I got you, but I got them too.
Right.
Yeah.
And to strengthen like your outlook and your basis of, have faithfulness and grace moving forward. Because I was literally mobbed. So I had one person, but then she had 5 other people. And so I prayed for them every day. I literally wrote their names down, wrote scriptures down, and prayed over their life every day. And even after, everything was resolved, or my life went back to some normalcy in the agency, I still pray for them. Right. I still have the scripture written down to pray for them, because one of the things that I realized, it is definitely, like a spiritual warfare. And it is something that you can't, like, okay, well, that's over. Let me just move on with life. I still have to pray over them.
Right. And that person, even though they are doing whatever it is they feel like they're supposed to do, they are still loved by God just as much as you and I are.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what might be coming down the pike in their life, but I believe if God has you to pray for that person, even though, they have treated you like dirt,
right,
that there's a reason.
Right.
But I will share this much with you. I did, and this was really interesting. When I applied for the job at Fort Lee, we had to do a salary negotiation because, of course, the government wanted to lowball me. But and so I sent them a letter, stating what I was currently making, what my experience was, and why I felt like, we needed to move closer to each other in terms of salary. So one of the things they asked me for was a copy of my check stubs. And, of course, I didn't have access to the system anymore, so I couldn't go in and pull them myself. And, I contacted HR, and I didn't hear, anything immediately back from them. And I was talking to Ebony, and I said, I don't want to ask her because I feel like she's going to be a prick about it. Mm-hmm. And Ebony said, well, Mom, if I was you, I'd go on and ask her. So I sent her an email, and she responded within 5 minutes.
Wow.
She said she sent something to the HR people and copied me on it and said, can you guys make sure that, she, send her whatever it is she needs, whatever form she needs to fill out so that she can get copies of her check stubs. And I had those check stubs, I think that might have been like a Wednesday when I contacted her. By Monday, I had the check stubs.
Wow.
So, when you look at that, it's like, okay, Lord, that tells me a couple of things, that you have dealt with her or you're dealing with her. And secondly, she may realize what she did wasn't right, but I know that, you put in her heart that, okay, you need to do this.
Right.
So, and, I know eventually I am going to run across this person again. And it's almost like I have seen it, in a vision. She's an ex-Marine, and I work at Kenner Army Health Clinic. So we see everybody, regardless of what branch of the service they were in. And I know one of these days I'm going to stroll through the clinic and I'm going to see her.
Right.
But I also know that where I am now is where I'm supposed to be. I'm not quite sure all of what God has for me to do where I am now, but I know that this is where I'm supposed to be. So
that actually segues us into our last question. And I was going to ask you, I know this to be true, and why?
Yeah, and I think what I said was, I know that my God is real. The other part of that is I know he is faithful. What he has promised to do, he will do. And I know that it's because of him that I have made it out of where I was, and I'm in a spot now where, he's just got something else for me to do here. Maybe there's somebody here I'm supposed to mentor. Who knows? But I know that it was time for me to leave from where I was because he had something else for me to do. And I think as Christians, we forget that it's not about what we want or what we want to do or where we want to be. Once you give your life to God, it's that you have said, okay, here's my life, do with it what you want to do with it, Lord. And that may not always be what we think. We think, okay, this where I want to be, that's where I'm going to retire from, and that may not be part of his plan. So I definitely know that where I am now is where I'm supposed to be. I don't know, all of what I'm supposed to do there, but I do know that this is the next stop on this train ride with Jesus.
Right.
And, and okay, it's like, you get off right here because I got something for you to do here. So, and who knows, it may be somebody who sees God in my life that gives their life to Christ. And if that be true, then it's worth everything that I have gone through. Mm-hmm. Because I know just how important each person is to God. So
right. Well, thank you so much. This is a very heavy topic, and we can probably
it is
talk, speak and just talk about the different things that we've both gone through as victims of workplace bullying. But as we both said, God reigns over everything, and His grace and favor has shown up and shown out in our life, only because we had to really refocus and surrender back to Him and to give Him, what He wanted from us all the time. It's just to trust in Him, stay focused, and to be grounded in understanding that, like you said, His word is a living organism. Well, thank you again, Ms. Janet Barnes. I really appreciate everything that you've shared with the SoapBox podcast, and just wishing you the best for your next endeavors, for your new position, and whatever God has for you. I'm sure it'll be revealed.
Yes, it will be, definitely. And just to, end on, I guess, a positive note, when God takes you through something, He's refining you for a purpose. And I really and truly think it makes us stronger. It does. And I think it's also so that we can reach back and help somebody else. Okay, well, thank y'all so much for having me. This has been fun. That's one thing I do very well is run my mouth. So,
well, this is the right place to do it. Again, thank you so much. You have a wonderful evening, and we'll be talking soon.
Thank you for tuning in to this month's Soapbox. We hope that you were introduced to something new, learned something you can share, and come back for our next episode to gain additional knowledge. In the meantime, stay connected with us on Facebook at Toiletry and Company, or check us out at toiletryandcompany.org. That's toiletry and co.org. As our mission is to provide love, hope, and soap to the universe.